Looks like basically the same group as we had the other day, except we swapped one in and out. I don't know where the rest are. I know where Haley is, but the rest of, because she wrote and said she wouldn't be here. Where the rest of y'all are, I don't know. So we went through Excel, the first 2 units the other day. You miss a day, you miss a bunch of stuff.
I had surgery.
Huh?
I had surgery.
But we went through and did chapters 1 and 2 of Excel, which is this week and next week, if I remember right. Is that right? All of y'all give me puzzled looks. Okay. Yep. This 2's not due till the 13th. So what I was going to do today, which really touches back on some of that stuff too. So what you didn't get, you'll see parts of, and then parts of it, as the rest of them can tell you also, is it's the same type thing as it was in Word, because they were teaching you how to format the stuff, and the formatting is the same thing as you did in Word on it. That's not any different other than you're working in cells instead of in the whole spreadsheet. And that was a big part of what we did on Monday. So what I wanted to show you today is, instead of where we were just looking at, we just looked at a few lines, and then what they've got you doing is just a small spreadsheet too, is for you to look at what you can do with a spreadsheet. And so I've brought actually 2 big spreadsheets that I've done. Okay? And so, at least they're supposed to be on there, we'll find out. The second one down here. Okay, there it is. All right. Top 2 are the ones. This one is one that I had written for what was International BB Gun Championship match, is now the Daisy National Championship match. Both cases is really a national competition. It was international before, because it uses international rules. Only a couple of times over the 50 years of it have they had any teams from outside the United States. There was actually a couple of teams from Germany, I think back in the 60s, early in the 70s, that came to it, that were military-based teams. But otherwise it's been just teams from within the U.S. Up to somewhere around 50 to 60 teams in it. This is the spreadsheet I did of it. That's from the 2010 match. I thought I had some older ones on my machine, but they weren't there. My hard drive got messed up last summer, and in putting the new one in, I accidentally deleted stuff I didn't mean to on it. And so I lost a few things, but I found this one from 2010. They used this spreadsheet from somewhere around 95, 93, 94, 95, somewhere back there, up until apparently 2010, that I had written back there in the 90s to keep the scores of all the kids. 7 shooters on a team, somewhere 50 or so teams each year. We give awards out to the top 3 teams there, and the top 3 shooters in every position get a medal also. Okay? So the object is, at the end of the match, to know, typically on Sunday, to know for Sunday evening who to give those medals to for both the top team, the top 3 teams, although they recognize the top 10 teams, and who the top 3 shooters in each position are. And actually, of the 7 shooters, 5 of them are regular team members and 2 of them are alternates that fill in if something happens to one of the others. In the 20 years I've been involved with it, I've only seen one time an alternate had to become a main shooter. That something happened to the main shooter. And if I remember right, it was the shooter got sick and couldn't shoot the whole time for the 2 days. They shoot in 4 positions and they take a test. And all 5 of those count the same, which makes it easier. Prior to me writing the spreadsheet for them there, and somewhere around 94, 95, they were doing it by hand, recording all the scores by hand, and then sorting through, trying to go through them all to find what all the numbers were, and they had paper charts for each one of them. And then they were transferring numbers off, looking to see what they thought was the biggest number on each one, and transferring that across, and kept doing it. And rapidly doing that on Sunday afternoon, because the kids shot 2 positions on Saturday morning, took tests Saturday afternoon. Sunday morning shot 2 more positions. And they needed to know immediately at that point if there was any ties for the top positions. Actually not for ties, but they had to score the sheets real quick to find out if there was any that had hundreds, because they'd have a sheet off for them right after that for setting records. But then by 5 or 6 o'clock that afternoon, finishing at about noon, they needed to get all those scores recorded, go through them, and figure out who all the winners were. And in the process there, the shooters actually have an hour to look at when their sheet was scored, to look at it and see whether it was scored correctly. So there was, during the afternoon there for an hour or 2, there was still an appeals process going on, changing some scores. Confuse everything, okay? And obviously most of the ones that were going to need changing were the ones that were likely to be winning medals. Because the bottom ones weren't as likely to appeal on it or even look at the score at their sheet to see if it had been scored correctly. So I wrote them a spreadsheet where we could enter the scores in after they scored the sheet, and instead of writing it down, put it in here, and for it to sit there and figure out who the top teams were continuously, and also to figure out where everybody ranked in each position automatically. And all that was needed to be entered was the scores. So if we look at this, this is, well, I told you wrong. I said that was 2010, but it's actually the 1999 one. Okay? But where I pulled it out of was in 2010 files, weirdly enough. So I know this is a real used one, because actually I was in charge of the match that year. Usually held on 4th of July weekend, except that year that it was held there July 30th to August 1st, because that's when they could get to range, but then they discovered problems. So when does school start back in Georgia? In August, the beginning of August. And it was bumping up on some on starting school, and July the 4th weekend, no matter where you are in the country, is basically summer vacation. Because you go to northern schools, they're not starting till the end of August, 1st of September. But southern schools have gone to a beginning of August start. So, but on here, we entered in all of the competitors' names and their team names, but it was already, I had it laid out here. Then we typed in these scores across here: prone, standing, sitting, kneeling. Didn't type this number in. which was the shooting score, and then their test score, and then what their grand total was. Because actually there was a medal they got for the top shooter, not counting test score, and I also got certificates for making hundreds on the test. The test, because it's based off of, the program's off of a shooting education program to teach gun safety to kids. And then some of them get to go on and be on the teams. And then the teams that are shooting here are the top 3 teams in each state. Now, as we flip through the thing, you're going to notice some states have more than 3 teams there. If they have more than one state match in a state, each of the top 3 teams from each match get to attend. So Georgia actually has a 4-H match, a JC's match at that time, and now actually has another match in there. So you'll notice Georgia's got like 6 teams here, okay, that were top 3 teams. But if you notice, it was held in Atlanta too, so that made it easy for them to get there. So off of this, if we look at the shooting score, let's enlarge this so y'all can see it better. That did absolutely nothing. There. Now, y'all can see it better, but the zoom didn't do anything. Now, so I went to the other with the buttons.
So where did you go to get it bigger?
To get it bigger,
Yeah.
I went up here to view,
You.
and then I clicked on zoom, and then it gave me the choices here. It should have worked down here too, that I should have gotten bigger when I zoomed in down here, but that didn't do anything. Okay? Although it's showing the 200% down there now, which is what I chose up here, but I don't know if it delay or whatever, but it didn't do. But y'all can see now what we got up here. So if we look here at the shooting score, for that cell, I've got equal sum, parentheses, C7, F7. And if we look and see C7 through F7, here's their 4 shooting scores. Okay? So I entered that there, and then I just copied it down. And actually when I created it, I copied it right on down, and then I had to come back and remove them from all the blank cells where it shouldn't be calculating it. And I think I did remove them. Yeah. Okay? So there's your calculations there using the sum function we saw the other day. And that it just sums that range. And then I did the same thing on total, but I didn't use sum on it. All I'm doing on it is that I'm adding this number plus this number. So I just did a plain G7 plus H7 for that cell. Okay? I could have also done, when I did this one, this could have been C7 plus D7 plus E7 plus H7 instead of the sum. Which, when it's only 4 numbers, it's one or the other. I did sums on it instead of adding, but it could have been just as easy on the other. Okay? So the whole chart coming on down here is based off that on the approach down through there. And they had 42 teams that year. So I actually used that number to do some work over here that I needed to know how many teams was affected by it. So if we scroll on down, you see it's just the same type of things on down until we get down through 42 teams. And then you see where I've got it set up to handle more than 42 teams. Because I didn't know how many teams were going to be there until I got there. And Like I said, it's usually about 50. I think I set it for 60. Nope. I was expecting lots of teams. So I've got it set for 75 teams, that I knew that was going to more than handle it on it without having to do anything when I got there. So you notice I've got 680 rows in the spreadsheet. So it's a decent sized spreadsheet here. Now, let's go back up to the top. Now, I did this originally in Lotus 1, 2, 3, and I actually had shortcuts in it so you could actually jump around in the thing. But it's now been moved to Excel, and it doesn't have the shortcuts because you could actually hot screen it and go section to section. Or you could scroll over, which is what we're going to do, and that's the way it then did for a few years. Now, over here, so now this is the high scores, that this is for the prone position first, and I've got columns for each position going across here. Now what I needed for each one was, I need the team's name, the shooter's name, and what their score was. Everybody follow on that? And that's going to then, that those are the numbers to be able to know who's the top three, because when they gave out the awards, that was the three pieces of information they needed to announce it. That's also what I took this whole column and made a page on the web page of just what their scores were of what they did on prone. I had one of the other page. So now if we look here at team name here in that first position, notice what I've got here. Equals $A, $240. Okay? Initially, this was in order coming on down. Now it's sorted by this column. Okay? Dollar signs on it because what got moved into this position, okay, we do not want to change when we sort. It's to stay fixed. It was assigned fixed position from the other one. Okay? Does everybody follow on that? So it's an absolute. But this came from the 240th row over there. This one should be $, something 240 for it. Maybe B, I don't remember if names in B column or which. Actually, oh wait a minute, I jumped columns. So this is going to be, and I was wrong, it's 242, and she's actually the first shooter on that team, because second shooter on the team, because the team name was on one row, and then the teams listed underneath. That meant I had to do some work getting them over to there. But then once I had the links back and forth across here, every time we use this thing for the next 15 years that it got used or whatever, you just had to put enough stuff in over there, it generated over here. Because if we put Gene shooting on that Myerstown team, it would change the name over here automatically for us after changing the name over there in the first place. Right, follow on that? So none of this are people typing into. The only thing that happens here is we'll choose these three columns and sort on it, which we do in chapter 3. And that we just choose those three columns and do a sort, and it will sort them out for us. And that then it gets them all right there. Now, with the way I had on it, that there was changes made after that you see there's a massive number of 99s right here. So 2 of them got a second and third, and the rest didn't, and there was a tie-breaking procedure, and we actually put a decimal point after on their scores. Now, then we had to go back and look at the sheets anyway, and we just knew which one it was. So they're linked back on that. If we go on across, that we'll see that I went through where I told you I went through double letters because the shooters, the 5 shooters qualified for medals in the top being in their position, and then the alternates get a separate set of medals and had a separate competition between them. So I had to have double on that out there. I had to have the alternate and the regular. And so if you see, this gets on out here to, went through BB on it. Now, this stuff here is above and beyond what y'all are going to learn in here. Okay? That was where I had it where we could hotkey on it, and it won't work in Excel. I'd have to go back in and make changes to it to get this to work in Excel now. But it's written to do it in Lotus 123. Okay, and their programming was a little bit different than how it programs in Excel, but you can do the same thing. So instead of having to sit there and choose the whole thing to sort on, that when we went to do them, we could actually do Alt and a key, and it picked the correct line out of here and did the sort automatically for us. But like I say, that's beyond what this class goes into. Okay? I think it's even beyond if you take the regular spreadsheet class that you'll get to, that you won't get to macros on that. So I had those all written there. But then I had the team rankings here, so we knew exactly who had what scores, so that we know Penns Valley won that year, Myerstown was second, and Humboldt County was third place. And Marshall City actually won it this summer. Last summer that they won the match.
Are the same people in it every year? The same people in it every year?
No. It's, there's some teams are usually there just about every year, and then there's other teams that qualify at different times, because some towns emphasize this real strongly, and then other places it's when they get teams together. Walker County last year, for the first time ever, had a team out there, and they placed like 20th or something, 27th if I remember right. And that was the first time Walker County's ever had a team there, and that they've only a couple of years had a team, even had a team around doing on it. Usually sponsored by 4-H. Although JCs used to sponsor lots of them, and sometimes doing it with 4-H. American Legion does some. And that there's others that sponsor them too. And that there's some teams I think have been there just about every year for all 51 years they've done it. And I coached 3 teams to the Nationals, and then the town where I was coaching them from has not even had a team since then. And I got 3 that went to National out of 5 years or something I coached on. So it varies on that, and it just depends on different ones on it. Because actually, if we look down there where Backwoods Bunch is listed here, that's Jessup, Georgia. And until about 5 years ago or so, I think they've had a team there for about 30 years straight. And then the lady that's in charge of the husband, he died back right after this match. And then she kept on doing it, and then she's not been as good of health, and they've skipped a few years on it. Gillespie's usually there from Texas. Buffalo, Minnesota's almost always there. Myerstown, Penns Valley are almost always there. And so on down through there. And so I actually know where most of these are. And I've actually gone and seen a number of them. And so you've got all those different ones in there. Okay? So y'all see what you can do here with that in terms of scorekeeping on it. I also wrote one that I've used that we used to use down running the fair in Swainsboro, that I had a big spreadsheet for it, that for the week long, because the JCs ran the fair. We took care of all the money collecting, so the tickets sold. We sold the tickets, collected all of that in. All of the ride tickets we collected and sold that money. And we ran concessions, along with the fair people having their little concessions that you're always questioning whether you're going to get poisoned or not by. And then we paid the fare that came in for the week on it. But we collected somewhere around $20,000 every day, because the 2 or 3 years I was treasurer, that I'd ride in the back of the sheriff's car to the bank every night to go make the deposit. I wanted a deputy with me when I had that much money on me to go take to the bank. They did that by hand until I wrote them a spreadsheet on it. I think they're still using my spreadsheet, actually. And that we wrote on it, and it would calculate, because we'd sit there before I put it on the spreadsheet, we'd sit there for an hour after closing every night, trying to balance how much money was supposed to have been collected for the night, because we did it all in a ledger book, and getting it all to balance out of how much money we collected and what we had marked down that we were collecting from everything as they'd bring money into us. And keep in mind, throughout the evening, we issued them some money to start the evening, and then all evening we'd make sometimes 10 pickups out there at the different spots, picking up money from them, because obviously you didn't want all that money on them. And then to try to balance it all back together and know how much money it was we were really depositing to leave at the bank, and know what it was we left in there. And counting that much money can be confusing at times. And trying to get out of there, because we all had to work the next morning, and that it was liable to be 1 a.m. before we went home each night. So I did one for them, and it made it a whole lot quicker for us once we put it in the spreadsheet, because we didn't have our numerical errors of where we were adding it all together, trying to put it back together, and we balanced much quicker on it. The other one here is the spreadsheet I used to do my dissertation. This is the one I commented the other day, took 6 hours to run. Okay? Back on 286 machines back in 1988. Okay? 88, 89. Now, if you were to put numbers in it and run it, it changes all the numbers accordingly in a bit less than a minute on today's machines. Same spreadsheet. Okay? So that's the difference of the speed of the machines. So enjoy y'all's fast machines. So that gives you an idea of where we've progressed from. So let me look down here again. And this one's actually not the one I did for my dissertation, but it was a follow-up study that we did the same study in Pennsylvania. I did it in Georgia, and then I did it with my professors in Pennsylvania. And so that's the one I could find. I couldn't find the one for my dissertation, oddly enough, out there. That I could find the dissertation still out there, but I couldn't find this one. So I'll zoom in again. See how we're zooming in, Jane? Or solo? Huh?
I know who you are.
Some name out there. So this one, I guess I really ought to shrink it back down for a second. I know y'all can't see it as well, but to show you what I've got right here, and then I'll enlarge it again. It was comparing teacher salaries from district to district. In the state of Georgia, it was comparing counties and then those few city school systems we got. So 100, in Georgia, when I did my study, I had to put in the salaries that 175, somewhere around 175 districts in Georgia. Not 100, not 175, 75 districts pay in Georgia. There's 53 counties, plus there's something like 20 independent city systems, like Chickamauga, okay? Where you've got a separate school system there instead of the county school system. This one is in Pennsylvania, but with it, what I did was I wanted to know, I was given by the school systems how much they paid on their salary scale, what's the minimum and the maximum they paid for each degree level. Then we did the same thing in Pennsylvania. They had less things that they pay on, that they only had 4 areas that we looked at on them, and I'm not sure what they were right here. And what I did was I looked at a map and I saw what all the counties were that adjoined that county. And then I averaged the adjoining counties, is what I wanted to compare to their salary. To see, did you pay more or did you pay less than the counties around you? Now, y'all can guess there was a lot of paperwork involved on this, that I had to look at a map and see what counties touched every county, okay? But then I had to put that in here. That's what these columns are right here, is the number. So this is county 1 right here on the first row. So that tells me what county it is. And then I know county 6, 5, 2, 7, 10 all touch that school district. Does everybody follow on that? So I put these numbers in, but I had to go out and manually look at a map and figure that one out, and then put that all back in. But now that I had that in there, now I'll go back bigger so y'all can see again, because it took off some of that and I wanted y'all to see width on out there on that. Oops. Where am I? Oh, I'm looking at the bar wrong. So come back over here. So this was all inputted data right here. This is what Albert Gillington County pays for the 4 levels that we were given and that we got from everybody. In their case, they had a bunch of school districts, much more than Georgia did. So doing this by hand would have been murder on it, which is why they wanted to do it after I wrote the program for Georgia, that we just modified the program from it. Because if you look there, there is 491 school districts. No, there's, yeah, something. 500 school districts there, it looks like. I'm not sure how those numbers are matching across there, but they look a little odd right there. But somewhere about 500 school districts. You can guess that then trying to average each one of those for all 4 of those was going to get really ridiculous. Okay? So, I've got, it did statistics based on all of those numbers down here at the bottom. So I know what the average and stuff were, that those are all statistical things that they told me exactly what they wanted on that. But if we go over to the right, because I gave lots of space for number of, I didn't know how many school districts surrounded every district. So there's lots of columns that got zeros, but that doesn't make any difference to us. So if we look at this number here, go back up to the top one, because that's the one we just were looking at. And it didn't enlarge the top part of the screen. Really nice it did. It says B6 plus B5 plus B2 plus B7 plus B10. Those are the numbers I had sitting over there to the left. So I had to enter this one with the actual numbers on it to find them. Really shouldn't have, but I should have been able to just put no, because I had to, because that's pulling out of column B, and I had to tell it which row for each one of them. So I used those numbers I had entered over there to the side, but there wasn't an automatic way to do that. So that's all entered manually down here. But once I did that one, this one I could then do automatic, because it was still using the same row numbers to do it. And then it's divided by 5 in this case. If we go to the next one, it's probably divided by a different number. It's divided by 6 because it had 6 districts around it. But if we come over to this one, it's the same thing, but it's using C, and that was just a copied over. So when I made this next column, I didn't have to retype the whole thing. I just did a copy. So there was some work still involved in it, and I probably could do it a little easier nowadays with knowing a little bit more. And then I did the calculations. And then, because this was a group of professors at the University of Georgia doing this study, they did all kinds of statistics on it, which is what I had to do in my dissertation too, that I did several statistics on it. And so that's where we got, where it's calculating over here what in the world the statistics were for it. And I should have statistics. I had to do some of these actually. Let's see, those are manually entered, they're not calculated. They should have, they had formulas in there originally. Transferring it from Lotus to Excel, apparently it lost the statistical function and just brought the number across. But again, look at what column I'm out to on here. I'm in the double letters in AG. Okay? So which means I went through, there's about 36 columns on here. And then you saw there's a ton of rows on down. Big part is seeing that y'all can go and go with very large things here. So this gave us our averages and everything down here around the surrounding. Again, something looks suspicious to me on this first 2 columns. I'm not sure what I was getting right there. Because those are rather big numbers that I had entered in. It looks like entered in right there. These were calculated, and I don't know what happened to the calculation. Because we based it off of it, and there was not people making $70,000 or $135,000 when this was done almost 30 years ago. Okay? Although their pay was better, bigger up there in Pennsylvania than down here for the teachers. And that if we look back up at the top, we can see that. So I'm not sure exactly what I did there. Well, actually, some of them had some big pay numbers up here. I don't know what they were on it. No, those aren't. Yeah, that one, that number looks odd right there. I don't know what happened on that. So that number looks like it's got a decimal position off on it. A couple of others do too. But I don't remember how they came up with their numbers. I wished I had the Georgia one still out there and I've got it someplace, I'm quite sure, because I put some of this stuff onto CDs and stuff. But the big part is for you to see what you can do on this, and that you can do some large things and cut your amount of work on it. Questions on that? And that you can develop some large sheets, okay? That they're not just, because sometimes when y'all look at the spreadsheets that you go to doing your assignments in here, you're going, I could have done this thing just as easily by paper, okay? But the other part is to look at when you use a spreadsheet on doing a lot of things. So like I said, I do my tax deductions, I put them into a spreadsheet. I could sit there and hand add all that information together, but putting in a spreadsheet, taking it from my checkbook, I can put each of the things I've contributed in a separate column, put the numbers in that I paid all year to them, so I can put the church in one column, I can put some charity I've given to, what I've given to the foundation in another column. I've got it by the column, I put in what I paid them each time, and add it up real quick across the bottom using the sum function. And then I've got the numbers there real quick. It could be done, but it's going to be done quicker for me. I've got to sit there and type it all into there, agreed. But then it generates the numbers for me. The other nice part is I don't have to worry about me having made any mathematical errors on adding on it, okay? And so it takes care of that problem for me on it. Because when you start looking at a bunch of numbers, you will make occasionally a mathematical error on it. You'll fail to carry a 1 or something or whatever. I remember when I used to do my taxes by paper, it seemed like every year, somewhere on there, I would fail to carry or carry an extra 1 or something, and I'd make $100 or $1,000 error on it. And IRS, when they'd go to send me my refund, or if I had paid them some, would send me a note and say either I owed them some more money or that said my refund had been reduced because there was on line such and such this error, and it was always $100 or $1,000 for or against me, and it was just a case of carrying a 1 or borrowing on it that I'd failed to do correctly. And they never had any problem with that, and I know good and well the system, and that the system never threw that out for them to go check on it or anything, because they knew when they saw those that it was $100 or $1,000 error on a line, calculated line in your tax return. They knew exactly what had happened. That was a simple mathematical error by whoever, and that then if I owed money, I sent them some money, or if sometimes I got a bigger refund back than I was expecting. And when they start doing tax programs on the computer, I jumped on the first one that came along and started using it, because I went, it will take care of my number error every year, which I've not had a problem since on that, because it sits there and does the calculations. And so I've been doing my taxes on the computer since somewhere around 93 or something, when what was the predecessor to TurboTax came out originally. And that I've used those ever since. So spreadsheets are highly useful to you. You can use them for putting other stuff in. Now you've seen, besides doing money type stuff in there, you've seen 2 other examples of 2 totally different things of keeping in a spreadsheet. Okay? So you can put all types of things to use spreadsheets for. Questions on that? Has it all got the idea of spreadsheets? And what you can do with them? Besides just knowing how to do stuff with them, that now you've seen what else and where linking across on there can really come in handy. Okay? That you can link stuff from one place to another place, and you saw where effectively on the first spreadsheet particularly that I had stuff what looked like really could have been, and I could have written the thing as separate sheets for each one of those and linked sheet to sheet. or I did it all in one and just had it all jammed together. If I was writing it today, I'd probably do multiple sheets and would have had a sheet for each one of those categories, and then it pointed back to the correct sheet, because when you put your address, you can also tell it in front of it which sheet and which row column that it references back to. And I'd probably do it in sheets now when I did it today. But when I wrote it there originally, when I say that was 94 or 95, because I'd looked at and watched them scoring it, and I went, y'all got to be kidding. And as they were all going crazy on it, actually I helped them on it the first year, so I'd helped do it in 93, and I showed up with a spreadsheet for them to use in 94. And then they were all going, ooh, this is impressive. Now, they're using another one now instead that actually takes the targets, they run them through a scanner, it actually grades it, and pops it right on into the spreadsheet automatically right there for them. And they don't even have to transfer the number across anymore. And somebody else did that, because I don't know how to write to score a target from a scanner. But this guy that's got a doctorate from Georgia Tech that's got his own computer company wrote one of those for him a few years ago, and he's written that for a number of shooting type things and makes his living off that. And they paid him more than they paid me. I didn't get paid anything for it, but I was seeing as it saved me work. Because like this match that we were just looking at, 99, I was in charge of, and I had to sit up there and keep all that thing going. Now, I had some people helping, typing for me and everything, but I still had to, and then help sit there and figure it all out. And it made it so much easier. All right, any questions on that? Y'all get the idea of what I was showing y'all today? Hopefully that helps on some of it. It's not specific to your homework or anything. It relates to what you're in here to learn about. And that's what I see myself as doing, is not just teaching you exactly what the book says. Y'all can all do that by yourself, is showing you some more things about it and helping you on doing that. Because y'all are all different areas you're going to go to from out of here, that you're all majoring in different things, but you can use spreadsheets of work in whichever area you go into, that you're going to use spreadsheets to do some different things. Word processing is the one you're probably more going to use of along the way, particularly here at school, because you'll use it to type your papers and type your resume and cover letters and all of that. But spreadsheets will work wherever you're then going, and like I said, it can be for personal stuff or business stuff. Okay?
Is this class mandatory for every major? Is this class mandatory for every major?
It was. And now, if the major has decided that they actually teach what's in this class somewhere else in their program, they've dropped it in some programs.
Oh, really? Because my brother, I'm going into dental hygiene, and I mean, I guess I could see where I would need it, but my brother's going into drafting, and he doesn't have to have it, which I think is weird.
But in that case, drafting has told the state that they are covering the type stuff covered in here in some classes they're teaching. The other thing is, like with the medical professions, some of them have dropped it also. So if you talk to the nursing students, they're not going to take this class now. That they've said they cover the basics of it elsewhere. The other problem is trying to keep their classes, because of how many classes they got to have for state board and everything. They're running over the max on what the accrediting agency says should be an associate degree or a diploma, and they're having to try to cut every way they can to get it down as close as they can, because there's so much stuff that's got to be covered in there. So, and there's been, it used to be up until just a couple of years ago, everybody got a degree or diploma from a tech school in Georgia had to take this class. Within the last few years, they've started drifting away. The other part is that they're also going on the principle now that most students are supposedly picking this up in high school or before.
I had it my freshman year.
That they've had it along there. When we put the course in back in 1990, nobody had it in high school, so it was everybody. Now the whole big issue is that state trying to decide who should still have this course and who shouldn't. And even in the computer occupation area, those students taking, I don't remember which major it is. One of the majors we've got does not even include this course anymore, because we said we're teaching it later on and we're looking at dropping it from some of the others, because we're going to go further. But then I'm looking at it and going, wait a minute, the courses they're taking in turn assume they already know something about it. And we still get people in here, just like y'all have got some classmates in here, some of y'all don't know anything about computers or anything about Office before coming in here. That Priscilla falls into that category. That she's, so, you know, because we've got all range of people. Large number are going to fit like large number in here, that y'all are fresh out of high school. Okay? And then there's the others that are older. And we got some students that are in their 60s and 70s up here. And when they were in high school, there were no computers in high school.
I know, but I tell you, we didn't have it either.
Okay? Because when I was in high school, and I took a computer class in high school in 1972, 73, there was 6 students out of 2,000 students in that school got to take the computer class. I was one of those 6. Okay? It was 6 or 10 of us, may have been 10 of us, but there was no more than 10 of us in that class that got to take a class on computers. You know, where now y'all are doing stuff on computers back in elementary school. Okay? So it's been a change along the way on that. But I think, and then the problem is a lot of people teaching the class want to just go throw you the book on it, and that these people are going, that's not doing students much good on that either, that you need some other stuff on it. And you need to be told some more things than what's exactly there, which I hope I'm doing in here and keep it more interesting for you. All right, then on that note, I will let y'all go. Have a good day. Have a good week. Because remember, next week we do not have class for this class, because I will not be here. Okay?
I found it. It's at 1,048,576.
Okay. So over 1 million rows then. Okay. And each time they've come out with the new versions of the spreadsheets, it's grown and grown. The very original ones, when spreadsheets first came out back there in the 80s, I think, actually the first ones I think only had 256 rows, and then they went to 8,000 rows. Now it's over 1 million. Okay?
I don't know why they need that, because if you wanted to print that out, who has to sheet that?
You wouldn't print the whole thing out, just like on these 2 I showed you today. You would not print that whole thing at one time. Like on this one that we're looking at right here, I would have just printed sections of it. The one from the BB gun match, it printed in just multiple sections, and that you print 5, 10. It printed about 14 pages, separate pages for separate parts of it. But not 14 pages, but 14 parts, and then each one of those printed a number of pages, because when you had 7 shooters per team with 50 teams, that was 350 shooters. So that's going to put you on a number of pages, and when you only print about 50 per page, that meant about 7 pages per report. But you only printed the parts you needed to print. And then like when I put it out there onto the internet, it was all separate things, and then you just printed the report you wanted. And actually, if you want to see how I do put it out there on the internet, you can go to the web page of it, which actually links off my page, or Hopefully I get the correct letters on this. Not two N's. It's not the Daisy National. It's just the Daisy National. Oh. And it's BB, not 1B. Yeah, there we go. And if I look at results up here, and I look at 2016, that then I put them in PDF for them right there. But when you look at it, you'll notice that is still a spreadsheet with no quarters around it, actually, if you'll think about it. Okay. And there I had the ranking, the team name, the state, which I didn't have back there and there, but now they keep the state out there on it. Their total score, the dash and the number after it was for the tiebreaker purposes. And that's when they did bullseyes. How many bullseyes did they have on it? And the DECOM, the cities, standing, city, hailing, and the test score. So the same information that you just saw in the spreadsheet, and I just did a print of it to a PDF file. Okay? That I chose those columns and printed to the PDF file out there. And then you can tell it your heading rows that you had on there to use them repetitively on down, so it prints nicely. And so for them at home, this looks real nice, and they don't know what in the world the big complicated whole thing was behind the scenes on it. And then I sit there and edit it a little bit more because I like to make it look a little bit better. Because remember, we give a medal to the top three, just like in the Olympics, so you get gold, silver, or bronze. I used yellow for gold, gray for silver, and it's actually brown, believe it or not. But it doesn't quite come out like that for some reason on the screens, but that was the closest thing I could come up with bronze. And still it doesn't look really brownish to me in any event, but that's supposed to be bronze. So that it makes it a color thing to make them stand out better. But every kid that shot last summer knows exactly where they stood overall. Actually, this is the teams from last summer, and we had 59 teams last year. Every team knows exactly where they stood. Now, Magnolia, the BB Gun Brigade from Texas probably would just as well not know that they took last place. But if we look back up through there, I told you I think Walker took 27th. We'll see if I knew that right or not, and I didn't. I was off by 10. It was 37th. Walker County's team took 37th place there, which isn't bad for the first year shooting in the competition there. Now, the kids can't go back 2 years in a row, so if Walker County was to send a team again this year, there's got to be 5 different shooters on it than it was last year. They can't shoot twice in a row. And that's to give more kids a chance to shoot in the national match. Because otherwise you'd have the same kids from certain ones come back every year for the 6 years they qualify, or for 3 or 4 years of it, because they can be between 8 and 14 years old. All right, see y'all later.